Tom Link, it's your Blink. Welcome to the Culture Show. Everything well set up. Guys are having a wonderful day. We have to do this because I'm not wearing pants. I'm gonna take a shower, then I'm gonna go do some shopping. We're taking a break because my phone is broken. So I wanted to show you the sunset. That is not a sunset. Enjoy. And the quality of the camera is shit.
Puts his arms up like a abominable snowman or something. Like who does that? Like it looks like Frankenstein it up. Put your arms out like that just makes it all that worse. I guess if you're hugging someone who's like a foot and a half taller than you, you would have to like reach up like that just to kind of like reach their neck or something. But for a smaller person, wouldn't his arms have to be down? Or does he just, kind of like the ridiculous theatrics he did with the, pulling out the things out of the bag and making faces? Like everything he does has to be theatrical, so he has to like throw his arms up like that just to make an extra big performance of throwing this huge hug around her. He just can't do anything properly or non-creepy. And of course, Nelly there did the right thing by just saying, I don't know, and then just leaving the room immediately. I'm sure they kind of make sure that all the decoys are clear, like the slightest thing goes wrong, you're uncomfortable, just run. Don't put your safety in jeopardy for the sake of entertaining television. So just run is the problem. And obviously this was the problem. Which is kind of unfortunate that John screwed up like this, because I would have liked to kind of more like to get Jeff Sokol and love to see more of the conversation between them two. Because he had kind of more of that, these kind of candid kind of revelations from them, since they don't know that they're in trouble yet. So it's kind of nice to just hear them talk about it before you know. Chris Hansen comes out, but it looks like he's still smiling at it. She disappears around the corner and follows her. He's not going to smile. That, this is some kind of a game she's playing. He's like just smiling and kind of laughing because it's a funny game that he's kind of playing hard to get. Or I guess the more terrifying way to look at it would be like he's sensing that she's uncomfortable and she's probably going to go up to her room and follow her there, and all of a sudden now he's kind of more in like predator mode, that she's kind of running scared. He's kind of like thrilled with the possibilities of what he could do. My gut tells me that's probably not what he's thinking, but I mean, who freaking knows? If he's willing to go this far and do this kind of thing, he really can't. The guy who's willing to do this, he can't say, well, he'd never go as far as doing such and such. Like, you just never know. Once your moral compass is that messed up, there's no telling what someone's capable of. He just immediately goes back to his phone. Like maybe that's just his comfort thing, the way he deals with anything, any uncomfortable situation. He just goes on his phone, so he doesn't have to deal with it. He's not looking one in the eye. No, right there, just set the phone down, please. That's the face of a guy who's trying to look tough but knows he's in shit. He's probably done this face a lot of times, from his family, and he's always in some sort of trouble, or from police when he's in trouble. Like, I bet you this guy was always getting shit when he was in school. Like, I bet you he's been a fuck up his entire life. And I think we probably all know guys like this. There's probably like this one in every neighborhood. This guy, I'm actually his name is Jeff, is his first name, but he's the kind of guy when you're like 11, 12, and he's a bit older, like 14, and he's kind of the neighborhood, like tough, cool guy, who smokes cigarettes, and always skipping school, always the one's in some kind of trouble, and the boys kind of look up to him. They think he's the rebellious kind of badass, which when you're 14 is maybe to be forgiven, but by the time you're 40, that is no longer cool. People no longer look up to a guy like that. He acts like he's a teenager, and committing any crime is bad, but this is obviously the worst of the worst. But he's just a big drug addict. He just can't live on his own. He needs a sister to drive him around. Like, he's just like a loser in every definition of the word. So it's no wonder that women this guy's age would have no interest in him. Like, even from the way he dresses, the way he acts, the faces he makes. I suppose that someone that has some annoying tendencies, but otherwise maybe they can find some sort of success in the relationship department. But just for a guy like this who has nothing to offer, judging from his chat log, like, I bet you he thinks he's a sweet, kind, romantic guy, that he thinks he's a nice guy. He probably is so delusional. He probably blames his society, his family, his teachers, and the cops, just everyone for his predicament. And in his own mind, he thinks he's like the hero of his own story, when he's just like a complete loser. And guys like this will probably never work. Like, if you haven't gotten your act together by the time you're 40, I could say it's not impossible, but you have a lot of work.
What is your plan here tonight? Just hang out, watch football? Hang out, watch football with who? With her. Who's her? With Bailey. Bailey. And how did you meet Bailey? Through Whisper. Whisper.
Look, he's got like just bad posture. It looks like he's like a humpback or something. He's got that definite curvature to his back. So yeah, I don't know what the cause of that is. I'm not a medical expert, but maybe just a lifetime being hunched over his phone all the time has like messed up his back.
Yeah. And you know how old Bailey is? She's 14. 14. She told you she's 13. Not that that matters.
Yeah, again, these guys always lie about their own age and the age of the decoy. Making her 14 instead of 13, does that make what you're doing that much better? Like, it's still illegal. You're still going to go to jail. Like, it's not any less disgusting.
How old are you? 30. 30.
It's lying.
And why would you at 30 think it would be okay to hang out with a 13-year-old girl home alone? I mean, we just hit it off, friends. You hit it off with a 13-year-old girl. Just.
And I bet you he probably doesn't think he did anything wrong. His chat log, while it was creepy as hell, he did say a lot of inappropriate things, but I think he said a lot more non-sexual things than a lot of the predators. Like, a lot of the predators are only talk about sex. That's their whole thing. Whereas with him, they talked about sports and other stuff. I think he honestly thought that he was making some kind of friend, and he's maybe one of the few that had intentions of making this a long-term thing. He's going to do what he's going to do and then run away, never to be seen again. He probably wanted to form some sort of relationship where they would see each other on a regular basis. It doesn't matter what what they talked about or anything. He's just as guilty as all the rest of them. Like, we know the reason he came over there, and even if he didn't talk about anything sexual in his chat log, like we've seen, like with the Mike Manzi situation, it's still just so inappropriate to do that. Like, who would even think to do that? Like, just to go over to like a young teenager's house when they're like home alone. Any normal person, a rational person would just say no. You'd never do that. Kind of like that detective says to Jeff Sokol who's interrogating. He's like, it's not just like a little bit wrong, or he's like, it's not a little bit okay or situationally okay. Like, he's like, it's so wrong. But these guys like just don't get it. You can tell even here when Chris asks him why he thought it would be okay for him to go there. It's like he kind of moves his eyes around a bit, like he's trying to search for an answer. It's almost like he's so confused by the question that he's like, how do I even answer that? Like, to him, it's so obvious that he would never pay attention. Let's watch that again.
Go home alone. I mean, we just hit it off, friends. You hit it off with a 13-year-old girl. We were just talking.
And, like, do you ever really, like, I don't have any kids or any nieces or nephews or anything, so like, I don't really ever talk to people of that age. Like, do you really hit it off? Like, especially when you're like an adult, like an older adult, there's always going to be a bit of a disconnect. That's why, like, when you're a kid, like, that's why your parents don't like hang out with you and your friends, because they're in a different stage in life, and like they just talk about different things, and it's just not that fun to be around. That's why you don't want to like hang out with your grandparents and their friends all the time. Like, just like you're a different generation, different age, you have different interests. That it's going to be hard to find anything in common, other than you'll see occasionally at family events or whatever. But we're talking like one-on-one. But like, who the hell ever talks to a 13-year-old person, and whether you have any bad intent or not, and then just think, oh wow, they're so cool, we hit it off, we became good friends, I want to hang out with them. Like, this doesn't really happen. Teenagers tend to be kind of annoying a lot of the time, so like, why would you ever want to purposely befriend them and hang out with them?
Just talking. Well, now you're here. This is more than talk.
I know, we just came to hang out. Now I brought
What, get a hug?
and watch football.
Look at his hair there. It looks like he's got that kind of line across his head. It looks like almost like he's wearing a hairnet over top of his hair, like one of those ones you have to wear if you have long hair in a kitchen restaurant. The way his greasy hair is, this looks kind of strange.
Ball.
Watch football.
Yeah.
Who's playing tonight?
Steelers and the Ravens.
And of course, that's one of his famous, probably his most famous line from this little episode here. And it's kind of funny how much determination he says that with. You know, Chris is calling him out on the line. Who's playing? Probably Chris was hoping that he wouldn't even know, so he could say, "Oh, so you come and watch the football game? You don't even know who's playing." He's like, "No, I'm so confident with who's playing," which is true. You can see from the chat log that he is a football fan, so he knows who's playing. But it doesn't matter. Even if he was there to watch football, the other stuff he was there to do is what he's in trouble for.
Yeah.
Who's playing tonight?
Steelers and the Ravens. I had no intention to win nothing.
No intentions of
No.
Well, John, what do you do for a living?
I was working at UPS.
UPS. And you
See, yeah, he was working at UPS, which means he is no longer working at UPS. And you can tell it's probably something that he's self-conscious about, and people have pointed out that he doesn't have a job. So instead of saying, "I'm unemployed," or "I'm not doing anything right now," he says, "I was working at UPS." So it's like, well, it's not what they asked you. They asked you, like, "What do you do for a living? Where are you working?" They mean now. They don't mean, "What did you used to do?" And it also means, like, how do you, like UPS, I'm sure it's a fine company and everything, but it's not a job that requires a high level of education. So for the fact that he left, he obviously, since he doesn't have a job now, he didn't leave to pursue something better for a better opportunity. He was likely either fired or he just quit, or something with his drug use interfered to the point where he was fired or he quit or stopped going or whatever. So I bet you that's not the first time it's happened, and it's probably been a constant source of, he's probably had, assuming his parents are well-adjusted people, he's probably had that talk before where they've had to kind of give him an intervention kind of thing while getting his act together. But if he hasn't done it by this point, then they've probably lost hope.
What do you do for a living?
I was working at UPS.
UPS. And did you walk here today? Or?
No, my sister dropped me off.
You don't have a driver's license?
Yeah,
No car?
no.
So what do you do at UPS?
I was,
And, Chris is kind of making fun of him there. But I don't think, like, obviously, yeah, driving is it's a big deal. And, not to get too personal here, but I just got my license back. I got a DUI like 14 years ago when I was younger and stupider. And, I quit drinking soon after that. I just, it's expensive to own a car. And I was just like, you know what? I just ride around on a bus. Like, it keeps your expenses down. Relying on other people going somewhere, you catch a ride and you give gas money and stuff. And you kind of, I just got used to it. So you can get around the city with a car or without a car. But there was always in the back of my mind, I was like, you know what? Like, you do have that loss of freedom. And I didn't really think people looked down on me, but there was like part of me that was like a little bit self-conscious. That's like, a grown man should at least have a driver's license or be able to drive a car. And just kind of like once so many years went by, I got used to it. And, I knew the transportation system, so I could zip around anywhere I wanted. But finally, just at the beginning of December here, I was like, you know what? I had to go through all these steps because you don't even know what. And it was like 14 years ago. I still had all these legal things I had to go through, and then I had to go and like re-get my learner's permit, and I had to go and retake the driver's test, and all these other steps I had to go through. But I finally did it. I was like, you know what? Like now, I feel so much more confident. It's like I actually got like a car now. I can drive wherever I want, and now I kind of look back and it's like, yeah, it is one of those things. It's one of those things like finishing high school, and it's like, you can't be successful at doing it, but there's just like certain milestones in life that as an adult that you really should hit. Things, yeah, like driving is one of them, like just finishing school, like at the very least high school, and just having a job, just like having some sort of gainful employment and living in your own place. And I don't know if John here lives at home, but I heard like now he's living like in a homeless shelter. So I doubt he had his own place. He's probably never been able to get his act together to a point where he could keep a job long enough to maintain his own apartment and own a vehicle. And so he just relies on other people to drive him everywhere. And he just constantly acts like a complete little douchebag thug, getting in constant trouble with drugs and everything. And before maybe his parents were 21, they could kind of brush it off like, oh, he's going through a bad phase. But by now we see that he's probably never going to improve.
package handler.
Package handler. You're not there anymore.
Yeah.
What do you do now?
Nothing.
Besides go online and try to talk to young girls.
And yeah, and that's kind of true, is that, giving people more time to not do anything productive probably is going to lead them to do more of this bad stuff. Even like with James Rutherford, like as soon as his wife left and like all of a sudden he's got ample free time to sit on the internet and do horrible things. So if this, say John was working a full-time job, like he should be, and he had other hobbies and he did other things, and he had a healthy social network of friends that he did stuff with and family, he would have less time just to be trolling online, having long conversations with teenage girls. But as soon as guys have nothing going on in their life, they're kind of a loser in every other area, and you give them just hours and hours alone, guys like this are going to get into trouble.
No.
Nothing.
Besides go online and try to talk to young girls.
I don't try to talk to. I mean, I just try to find a girl to talk to and hang out, whatever.
Yeah, that's pretty much what he's accusing you of there. I wonder if John, I wonder if he tries to talk to adult women and they just pay him no attention, and he just eventually started, well, maybe if I can trick a dumber teenage girl into it. I wonder if that's what he did, or does he just straight up prefer that age? Or could be, he probably knows on some level that he is very, very immature. So a 40-year-old woman, raise any woman, even by the mid-20s, would probably be more mature than him and would just see him as a complete clown, not even take him seriously. But he probably just remembers back in his earlier days when he was in high school and before, he was probably kind of popular. I don't think he was ever seen as the cool kid, he was a jock. But he probably had a circle of people that thought he was probably a goofball, and people thought he was funny, and they would put up with him like that. He maybe just never grew out of that, where he realized he's still in his own mind, he's still back in those days. And I doubt this guy reads a lot or watches any sort of engaging television or movies. I bet you he's just nothing wrong with sports, but maybe that's the extent of what he does. He's probably not into anything that a reasonably intelligent adult would be in. He probably listens to conversations about politics or anything and just can't follow it. I can't see him being a smart guy. He smokes meth and acts like a scumbag and then goes after teenage girls.
And how many times have you done this with somebody who's 13, 14 years old?
Never.
Never talked to another girl who said she was 13?
No.
Well, who's Brittany?
Brittany.
See, the Britney thing, kind of, I'm not sure. Actually, in one of the comments in the Kevin Westerbeck video I did, someone recommended watching or listening to Chris Hansen's podcast, which I actually did. I did it right before this recording right now. I listened to the episode where he's talking about John Dupie, and Chris brings up this whole Britney thing again, that apparently John Dupie was talking to some other girl named Brittany. I was always under the impression that was a mistake. I thought Brittany was one of the other predators in the state was talking to them, and Chris got confused here. There's something about John Dupie's reaction here. I kind of believe him that he has no idea who Brittany is. Because the thing is, with Bailey, with the girl he's there to meet, he's kind of forthcoming that he's showed up and he didn't have any bad intent. He's not really lying about anything. I mean, he's lying about his intent, but he's opening it up that he's like, yeah, I came here, but I didn't have anything bad to do. So why would he all of a sudden lie about knowing this other girl? And it seems like Chris drops all Brittany quickly. If it was true, he could be like, here's the chat you had with this Brittany girl, proving that you were talking to two girls. But Chris just kind of awkwardly drops it and then changes the subject. So I was always under the impression that he got the predators confused, that Brittany was the decoy for another predator. However, after listening to the podcast, he said again that John was talking to him earlier. So now I'm just confused and don't know what to believe.
Girl who said she was 13?
No.
Well, who's Brittany?
Who's Brittany?
That was the other girl you were talking to.
What was this?
Within the last few weeks. So you say to Bailey,
Yeah, so it just seems like a strange interaction.
I whisper, that you're 30, how old are you? She says 13. You say, you're not 13, and that, yes, I'll be 14 next month. It's pretty clear. You remember that, right? You do. And later you tell her, I would love to be the first guy to make you blank if you wanted me to, and I wanted to. Feel me inside you, baby. Has that line?
It's kind of funny too. Just look at the paper that Chris Hansen is holding there. It It's like that's the chat log printed out, but it's like stapled together, but it has the show's letter on it. They're like big graphics and stuff.
And I wanted to feel me inside you, baby. Has that line ever worked for you before?
No.
Then why can't you do that now?
There is no, I mean,
It's kind of, I don't know if that's considered a loaded question, but like, has that line ever worked for you before? And he says no. Does that mean that he uses that line frequently and that it has never worked? Or does it mean that he has never used that line? Because if he's used, why would you use a ridiculously stupid line like that, try to pick up girls, and it's never worked for you before, and you continue using it? Like, that is stupid. You should have just said, I've never said that to anyone before.
no.
Then why can't you do that now?
There is no, I mean,
Well, what might have made it?
there was no intentions made by it.
That shows clear intent. I want you to feel me inside you. What did you mean by that exactly? And then you talk about that you and
You can't even answer that. Maybe the realization is hitting him that like once he's confronted with it, because maybe in his own mind, maybe he's that that he thought that like I really am only coming over here to watch the game. I never said anything that bad. I have no bad intentions. I'm a good guy. I'm a nice guy. And then when someone reads you, here's this thing you said. What does that mean? And you can't come up with an answer because there's only one thing that could ever mean.
it shows clear intent. I want you to feel me inside you. What did you mean by that exactly? And then you talk about that you and a bunch of people snuck into a mansion and partied for days. Where was that mansion?
That was a while ago.
How long?
Maybe 8, 9 years ago.
Oh, so it was a long time.
Yeah.
And that's just the kind of guy he is too, that tries to impress people with like juvenile things like that. Like who would ever be impressed with that if you met someone like as an adult and they were like trying to show off to you how cool they were by telling you they like broke into a mansion and partied there for a few days. I can see if you're just, telling stories with friends about stupid things you did when you were younger, that's fine, but he's trying to like pick up a girl basically when you're not as a kid or an adult. Like why would you brag about that? Like she's gonna be impressed by juvenile criminal behavior like that?
This does not look very good for you, John. The chat, the appearance, the Cheetos, the dark chocolate. Did you bring condoms with you?
He was very quick to answer that. Some of the other questions, like the questions about what did you mean by that, he just never even answered. But when he asked about condoms, like he says no before Chris even finishes his sentence.
Chocolate. Did you bring condoms with you? Not in your pockets, no? But you see how this looks.
Absolutely. I mean,
You're 30 years old. The girl you were talking to told you very clearly she was 13.
I had no intentions just besides
John, why don't you just tell me what you were really up to?
just to hang out, get to know her,
Get
and
to know her.
yeah.
But like he was getting to know her online, like sometimes there's behavior like this that is so far outside of what a normal person would do. I have a hard time understanding like even the basic motivation to do it. Things that are wrong, like say, like stealing, someone robs a bank. I would never ever in a million years do that, but I get the motivation because you want money. I understand why people would want money. I get why they need money. So the chance to get a large amount of money with very little effort, like at least I get that kind of motivation. That would be like I get it, it's still wrong. But for this, like I struggle to even it's like you can't even put your mind in the mindset of someone who would want to do that. I get why you would want to meet a romantic partner, like an adult. But what he's saying is that he didn't even want that. He had no sexual intention. He only wanted to meet them and hang out with them. Like, why put all that effort into just like meeting like a teenager that you have like nothing in common with? There's nothing good that can ever come of that. Like, you have to worry about parents being there, sneaking around her parents, and waiting until they're not home. And there's all this bullshit that you would have to deal with in maintaining that friendship, if that's what he says it's going to be. It just seems like there's no other logical explanation that he's lying. He just went there to have sex with her and got caught. He was trying to lie that he was not going to do that.
And if you were the parent of a 13-year-old girl, would you be comfortable with that?
I mean, it depends how the. I mean, if I'm a good person, you know, like.
And yeah, like fuck John. Even other scumbags like Timothy Isaac. There's a lot of these other dirtballs. When asked that question, they're like, I would hate any man would hate that. Any woman too. Absolutely hate for a 40 or 30 whatever year old man alone with their young daughter. There's no one that would ever not say that. So for him to try to make up this bullshit excuse that it would depend if they're a good person. If any man that came home and found a 13-year-old daughter hanging out alone with some 40-year-old man, especially one that looked like this guy, there's no man alive that would wait to see if he was a good person. Like you would just sit there and kind of chat with him and make up your own mind. No, like you would bad things would be happening to that man. That's for sure. Like just the fact that he can't even admit that, like his mind is so clouded by the fact that he thinks he's a nice guy that he couldn't see why someone else's, like the girl's parents, would have a problem with this. Like, is that what he's saying? Like that is insane.
The 13-year-old girl, would you be comfortable with that?
I mean, it depends how the. I mean, if I'm a good person, you know, like.
Typically, good people don't meet strangers online. Talk about sex.
And how does he think he's a good person? Like he's literally been in trouble with the law a bunch of times. He knows he has a drug problem. Like he can't keep a job because he just overlooks these things. Like I think he probably blames on. I mean, he blames on everything. Like he probably lost his job because he was not showing up, or he's not showing up late, or showing up high, or he was just incompetent and couldn't do the job, so he got fired. I bet you he blamed his boss. I bet you he kind of came home from work like every day, would just bitch to his sister or whoever about how much of an asshole his boss was, even though it was totally his fault. And everything he does is his fault somehow. He gets busted for drug possession by the cops and probably blames it on them, or he blames it on whoever he was with. Somehow justifies it that he was the victim in all these situations, and then he just thinks he's a good person.
I mean, it depends how the. I mean, if I'm a good person, you know, like.
Typically, good people don't meet strangers online. Talk about sex, and then go revisit. And within 3 minutes, ask for a hug.
All they do is just ask for, you know, a hello hug. That was it.
I will give him that little bit. Obviously, with a 13-year-old like that, it's completely inappropriate. But I don't think it's wrong to hug someone you just met. Like people do it all the time. If you're a hugging kind of person, you know, back when I used to be on Match back in the day, and I dated a lot of women on there, and yeah, it's completely normal. You talk to them online, and you meet them in real life, and give them a hug. Mom and I hugging you. It's not that inappropriate. In this situation, it is because just that she's 13. He has nefarious intentions. Like it's wrong. But in most situations, like a hello hug is not. There's nothing really sexual about it.
3 minutes, ask for a hug.
All they do is just ask for, you know, a hello hug. That was it.
With a 13-year-old girl. Walk right in the house.
Or she told me to.
Does that make it right? Knowing that she's 13.
Oh, I wouldn't have never just walked in, you know, without talking to her, you know, without getting her okay.
And again, here it's like, yeah, he wasn't. Yeah, I don't think he would have broken it, although he didn't break into that mansion. Yeah, like she did invite him in and everything. He's kind of right about that, but he's kind of missing the big point. Because like, why be there to begin with? Just because a 13-year-old tells you, you know, they're home alone and you can come over, you should know enough to say no. That's inappropriate. So, but this is probably how he responds to everything. He probably just has an excuse for everything. Everything he's ever done wrong in his life. There's some sort of a reason why he's not responsible for it.
Now, you talked about spending the night here tonight. Yes or no?
It depended, you know, like, if she had to wake up in the morning, you know, like, if I was going to stay
Did
here.
she have to go to school?
She said she didn't have to go to school today. Right?
I think he missed the inferences that Chris was making with that. He said, oh, she have to go to school. You're just admitting that something that's going to school and it's not university, like that's a big problem. These guys who are going to sleep over, like, isn't that a huge risk? Like, he's basically trusting her. Parents are going to be away all the time. They're not going to come home for any reason. Like, that is there's so many chances that could go bad. It's kind of like if you're having like an affair with a married person, like meet somewhere that isn't the person's home. Like, oh, you know, my husband or my wife is gone for the night. They could come home. You know, like what if you're like laying there in bed and all of a sudden it's 7 a.m. and they come walking through the door? Like it's a very very dangerous situation. You're better to do it somewhere else. Like, why would you take that kind of risk? Like, obviously, if their criminality has reached a point where they're going to go this far, it's like they probably just have a complete lack of judgment. They have no sense of self-preservation. That they're not even going to try not to get busted, so they're just going to trust the girl that her parents are gone and then like spend the night. Yeah, it just seems like if they had any sense of keeping themselves out of trouble, they wouldn't do this to begin with, or they would just take more precautions. And that's why even the idiots that ask them, like, are you a police officer? And then the decoy says no, they just show up. Like, that's all the proof they need. They have some sort of like sense inside to verify that they're not going to get in trouble, but they're so willing to just, they want to go so badly that it's very easy just to convince them and to brush those fears off.
And tomorrow.
So you could just spend the night and hang out with the 13-year-old girl. That's cool.
Well, I mean, I didn't plan on it.
You talked about it.
I mean, I was gonna leave out there football game.
Unless you spent the night.
No, I didn't plan on spending the night.
You talked about having cannolis, dinner.
Yeah.
Sounds like you're going to have a special little night with your 13-year-old kid.
No, just go over and have some, some snacks plus four.
Who's bringing you up?
My cousin.
Your cousin?
Yeah.
What's your cousin want? Does your cousin know that you're coming to visit a 13-year-old girl?
I like how that cousin made a cameo in this video. I wonder if that cousin ever like watches this, or if he watched it and just kind of found it amusing that he was there. It's not as bad as being, say, a tag along where you actually show up and get your face on the show when you had nothing to do with it. At least no one knows this cousin's name, so you can kind of get away anonymously. But it also kind of makes you wonder. Like, his sister drove him there, his cousin is texting him. Like, is this guy like such a loser that he's long lost any sort of friend? Like, anyone that is not connected to him through family would not hang out with him. So the only people in his life that he corresponds with are people that are family, because they're basically stuck with him. So it just seems like, is that possible? It's hard to say because it's only two people, one sister, one cousin that we've seen an example of. One of the cousin was talking to his sister and was like, oh, he dropped him off at some girl's house and he just wanted an update on that, or maybe I'm just speculating, but it seems weird that the two people he's mentioned are both family members, because I know this guy has a lot of friends, or at least friends that aren't just surface level drug friends.
Your sister?
No, she knows that I was coming to hang out with her.
So what would your sister think if she knew she was dropping you off at the home where a 13-year-old girl was alone? Think she'd be cool with that?
I mean, she probably would say, just don't do it, don't do anything stupid,
Don't.
Obviously that means that the fact that Chris passed this and John's answering, that means that, like you said, the sister does not know the girl's 13. So the fact that he didn't tell her this detail, I guess you could argue that he just didn't think it was a big enough deal to mention her age. It just seems the fact that that came up, like, that's a pretty important detail. You've said in other commentaries, like, a person's age, especially when it's that drastically different from yours, like, it would be something worthy of kind of mentioning. It's the kind of thing, like, yeah, if you found out, even say, like, your 30-year-old kid was dating a 60-year-old, that's a big enough age difference that, it's legal, and, there's not much you can do about it. But it would be something that likely the family people would be talking about. It's something that would be mentioned. It would be a topic of discussion. It's the kind of thing someone would notice. So it's the fact that he kind of kept this secret that this girl, that he's 40 and she's 13, he didn't tell his sister. Like, he probably didn't tell her because she probably would have had a problem with it.
I mean, she probably would say, just don't do it, don't do anything stupid,
Don't do anything stupid.
Right.
It seems like you've already done that.
I just come in, all I was doing was just coming here to watch the game.
You tried to solicit a 13-year-old girl online using graphic sexual language. What do you think should happen?
So I'm not like that. I'm a bad guy.
How does this look?
I think he meant to say, I'm not a bad guy. He said, I'm a bad guy. Maybe it's like the subconscious knows exactly what he is, so it won't even allow him to say those words properly.
Using graphic sexual language. What do you think should happen?
So I'm not like that. I'm a bad guy.
How does this look? How does that look? John, you tell me, how does it look? If you were me, what would you think?
That I honestly made a mistake.
That you made a mistake.
It's kind of pathetic too, just to be a grown man at this age and just having someone give you shit over a stupid thing you did. I mean, this is more criminal evil than normal. But it's like, you know, when you're a little kid, I'm sure a lot of people have that experience. I certainly did, where you're always doing stupid things and your dad's always like giving you shit and you're kind of sitting there like looking at the floor with your head hung low, and you know, it's just like you don't know why you did it. You went out and did some stupid vandalism, or you know, things that aren't that bad but you shouldn't have been doing, and then your dad has to like yell at you, and then you feel all bad about yourself, and you know, that happens to kids and it probably always has through history. But by the time you're like 40 years old, you shouldn't have some stranger just sitting there grilling you over something you did, because you should have your life together where even things like poor performance at work, or just you don't screw up on a level where you have to like be spoken down to and be humiliated. So there's just something pathetic about him just having to sit here all sweaty looking up at this guy and trying to like defend his actions.
Well, that's true. And how would you define it?
Not to talk to girls like online.
And I know Jesse Velez kind of have the same thing too, where you can the whole don't go into strangers' houses or don't go into people's houses. It's like, dude, are they so delusional that they don't understand the point here? You're allowed to talk to people online. You can talk to anyone online. You know, make sure they're adults, and especially if you're going to be talking anything sexual, but you're allowed to talk to anyone you want about anything, except this one specific thing. We're talking about sexual things with an underage person. That's like the one thing you can't do. And despite he doesn't understand that, he thinks that the problem is he was talking to people online.
That I honestly made a mistake.
That you made a mistake. Well, that's true. And how would you define that mistake?
Not to talk to girls like online.
Or try to come over and have sex with them.
I wasn't trying to come over and have sex with you.
John, let me read it again. I would love to be the first guy to make you blank if you wanted me to, and I want you to feel me inside you, baby. What do you mean by that?
And that's the thing, his chat log, yeah, it had a lot of stuff in it. Like the sexual component made up a much smaller part than a lot of the predators. So I can see in his mind, he's like, yeah, we talked about a lot of different stuff. It wasn't all sexual. It was very, very little sexual stuff in it. But even if it was just that one line, that's still like that topic should never come up with a 13-year-old. So like you can't. The one line that Chris just read, that's enough to convict. Hopefully, it's enough to convict this guy, depending on the law. But it's definitely enough to make him wrong. You can't say you had no intention. It's like that one thing was enough to prove that you had intention, because you said what Chris just read. There's no way around that.
I would love to be the first guy to make you blank if you wanted me to, and I want you to feel me inside you, baby. What do you mean by that? That sounds like savage to me.
I was just playing with her, seeing.
Just playing with her.
Not playing with her, but you know, just seeing like where she was. Like
She was what did that even mean? Seeing where she was? Like, so you were just kind of like fishing for some sort of reciprocity where she would say sexual things to you too? Like, isn't that what he's trying to say that he was not doing? Like, it clearly means that he was trying to get something more out of her.
I was just playing with her, seeing.
Just playing with her.
Not playing with her, but you know, just seeing like where she was. Like
She was 13.
I mean, I'd never had sex with her. I mean, I didn't plan on coming here to have
Well,
sex
not
with her.
tonight, because I walked in.
And I didn't plan on it.
You didn't plan on it? Come on, you talked about it.
Like, that wasn't my intentions. I talked to her all day today about just coming over and watching the game and just hanging out.
Salads.
About what?
You talk about salads.
About like food and stuff?
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is another thing that apparently, I think in one of Fast Eddie's videos, he says, you know, that you read the whole chat log, there's no mention of this salads thing. There's kind of some debate over whether or not Chris is once again confused with all the other Predators chat logs. However, in the podcast I listened to today, where Chris talks about John Doobie's episode here, he says that this was discussed, the whole tossing salad thing was discussed in a phone call. I haven't listened to all, other than what they played in this episode here, I haven't listened to John's phone calls. I don't know if they're available or not, but, so I guess I'm not sure if I'll ever have confirmation of whether or not that's true.
While we're watching the game.
This is a whole different kind of food here that you're talking about. So what do you think she had? You're in a bit of a fix. is I'm Chris.
And I love how Chris is always just so kind of dismissive when it comes time to be like, well, guess what? You know, he's about to bust him. It's not a lack of respect, but just that little bit, right? Where he just kind of looks at them and treats them with contempt. You know, he's just like, well, listen, you ever watch TV? It's just kind of funny how just like humiliating them that little bit.
I'm terribly sorry, sir.
Well, there's something you need to know, and that is I'm Chris Hansen. And this is an investigation called Hansen versus Penn. Sir, if you want to leave, you should go out that door right there.
And yeah, the whole, I think it's been brought up before, the whole fact that these like news video cameras
If you want to leave, you should go out that door right there.
are much smaller, which I can see their point. Like obviously the bigger bazooka cams are much more intimidating, just kind of funny looking, more impactful than these little ones. Although I was watching one of the True Blue episodes on YouTube, one of the newer ones, and I swear the cameras are pretty big. So I don't know if they're just a different style camera or if they just purposely chose a bigger one just so it'd be more like dramatic. Because I imagine now you could probably do this on a phone and get equal or even better camera quality. You would kind of lose something with the kind of camera, but you gotta pay attention to that more often. It's so weird too. Chris mentioned on the podcast how he just pulled that curtain aside. It could be that he didn't know if he was supposed to go that way, or maybe he was just so interested he had to see what was going on behind the scenes that he just had to think would be. Maybe he just loves pulling curtains back. He just sees a curtain and he just can't help himself. He has to see what's behind it.
You have anything on you that's going to hurt us? Any weapons? Let's see this scar. Yep.
It's a little bit off topic, but it's kind of funny how when you watch these videos or any sort of real life interrogation footage, how different the interrogation rooms look than they do in movies and TV shows. Because obviously, movies and TV, they stage it to look good on cameras. The table's always in the middle of the room, so that the detective can like walk around it. They have that working the cameras and lights and everything in the room, and they want to have a bit of a background there behind the table, so there's enough room to move around. Whereas in reality, it's always like a cramped, small room with a tiny table, and then the predator's kind of like sitting in a corner like this, which makes it in real life you don't want to give them that much space or anything. But it's just funny how most people most of their knowledge of courtroom dramas and these interrogations come from what they've seen on TV. That's not happening. And yeah, John all of a sudden is crying, just tears of the situation that he's in. Like I still don't think he understands the gravity of what he did. He probably just knows that he's in trouble again. He's probably on some sort of parole, and so he's gonna go back to jail for even longer. He's such a sad sack. His life is so pitiful, but it's all his fault.
So, why do you think you're here?
Because I went to that house.
Again, like him and Jesse Velez should just get together and then they can spend their lives not going out of people's houses and get in trouble. But do they not get it? There's nothing wrong with going to a person's house. You're allowed to go to a person's house with permission. If you're not there for terrible illegal reasons. So why would you possibly think like there's something in their mind they can't connect like the crime to what is wrong with what they were doing? Probably going to the house. The problem was going to the house with a 13-year-old girl and you're alone and you had solicited her saying you wanted to have sex with her. That is the reason it's wrong. It's not that you went to the house.
So, why do you think you're here?
Because I went to that house.
And how did you learn about that house?
I talked to that girl.
What's the girl's name is?
David.
And like this, obviously there's this female detective there, and then guy that's kind of just sitting there leaning against the wall. But I think it kind of works well a lot of the time to have, and she's taught, you know, like in her mind, she probably thinks scumbag, but she's talking very, very nicely, very gently. She's basically treating him like a toddler. Because I bet you that guy who's drilling him, John Doobie, would be so scared he would probably just clam up and he would not confess or anything. He would just be like way too intimidated. So it kind of works just to treat him with the kid gloves and treat him very nicely and talk to him very softly, just so he kind of opens up more. Even though it probably goes against everything she was thinking inside of her head. But if your job is to get a confession, it's like, well, I guess that's a good way to do it. Just the fact that even the guy the detective that's talking, interrogating Jeff Sokol, he talks to him kind of like man to man. He doesn't treat him with the kid gloves. So just like what a little wuss that John Doobie is, that she has to just treat him like this because he's on the verge of breaking down. Like what a loser.
And how are you talking to Bailey? Are you talking on the phone?
Both.
Like actual voice-to-voice conversations?
Hello?
Hi.
Hey, boo.
Hi, baby. What you doing?
What are you doing?
Nothing. What do you want?
I'm just waiting for you.
Oh, are you? Uh-huh.
Yep.
I love you.
How did you...
Yeah, the word cringe kind of gets thrown around a bit too much these days, but I can't think of any better word to describe that conversation. What a boring conversation. What do you want from me? Nothing. You. Just missing you. It's like, good lord.
Did you first meet her?
Mm-hmm.
What, are we on an application? What was the app?
Whisper.
About you wanting to feel... You want her to feel you inside her. I mean, I know what that means to me.
I know. I should never.
It's funny because that's the same line that Chris Hansen brought up. Like, it's his most graphic line, but it's
Beautiful.
not like